What we decided to do is to kind of take this, this piece of local treasure and tie it into a campaign to revitalize and reconnect the current Frontier football program with the past Frontier football family members. Well, I think what's special or unique about this film is that it's it's far enough away in history to realize that the game was active and was a big backbone to this community back in the early '60s and beyond. But not only that, it's close enough in current history where we got guys who are involved in Frontier athletics now who are on the game film.
As a youngster in elementary school, I can remember when Frontier, when we played Arms, that was a big rival. And I can remember the year that they beat Arms for the first time in years, and it was a big thing. The season at Frontier was based upon if you beat Arms Academy. If you beat Arms Academy, you had a winning season. The game is a lot different now. Looking back at the film, the game was more of the old classical football. There was a lot of running up inside, some sweeps, not a lot of passing, but just, down and dirty football in the trenches. It's kind of interesting to see the way the game, even the high school game has changed from what it was in those days. It was, down in inside interior lineman blocking, not a lot of passing, some sweeps, not a lot of those, not like today. It's a different game. Looking back at the film, that's one of the things we noticed. We had seen a later film, one of the later years, probably in the '80s, and you could markedly see the difference in the way that the high school games were played. This is just high school, and the way it was different then, it was just down and dirty. The guy in front of you, knock him down. The guy's coming through the line, you tackle him. But it was a big day for us. We had started off our season, we played at Murdoch, and our star quarterback, Jimmy Duda. We're not sure whether it was a broken collarbone or broken ribs. We're not sure. I thought it was the collarbone, but Jerry Bell told me it was broken ribs. But he was out for the season. So we were stuck with no quarterback, and we got one of the sophomores at the time, Raymond Burgel, who stepped in as the quarterback and got thrown into a situation. And really had a pretty good season. We were up at Mount Greylock on a very cold, snowy afternoon, and it was the championship game. We had lost the first game. We had lost to Murdoch. So to win the championship, we had to beat Mount Greylock. And we didn't win. Most of the people that played on the field played at least one sport more than football. And some of us played 3 sports. So we were kind of a I don't know what they call it, master of none, or player of one and master of none. So we had a lot of athletes. Jimmy Duda was a really good baseball pitcher. Jimmy Tirati was a baseball player. He played shortstop, second base, somewhere in there, and he was a basketball player and a football player. So we had some kids that were really gifted athletes. Freddie LeBrod, who was a really good football player. Dick Kowinski, who has passed away. Played football in college, so we had a gifted team. Just cards didn't fall right. We knew a lot of the kids from what we call Mohawk now, but it was Arms Academy. So we ran court and Harper Gary and Karen. We knew these. We were friends. It was a big game for us because it was kind of revenge. So it was a big day for us. It was our championship game again just to prove ourselves, and they had a good team. They had a really good team. There was a lot of balance in the Intercounty League at that time. I believe it was 21-8.
Oh, okay.
So they had scored one. They had scored it in. I think in the fourth quarter they had scored a touchdown. It wasn't until the fourth quarter, because they had 2 running backs, Mickey Karen and Dennis Rancourt were really good running backs, excellent running backs. and they had a lot of experience, and they were seniors. Mickey Karen was not big, probably 135 pounds, but extremely, extremely quick. And I was a defensive end, so I didn't have much of a job. My job was containment. Sure. So they stuck me out there, but I knew that because I knew that both him and Dennis they could turn the corners really well. So it was critical to keep those turn the play up inside so that they could make the tackle. So that's how I remember those two, because that's what my assignment was, to keep them inside. And it was tough. They were good ball players. They were both really good ball players. And the quarterback they had was Harper Gary was a really good quarterback who could throw the ball. So, you know, you can't shut the game off because they're the kind of a team that can score on you. So it wasn't really until the fourth quarter when we were ahead. But it was a big day for us. I mean, it was kind of a revenge situation. That loss at Murdoch really cost us heavily. And of course, we lost our quarterback, who was a great quarterback, could throw the ball. We had good receivers, and basically putting a sophomore in there really hurt the offense, not having the quarterback that we had. And Jimmy was a really good quarterback. He had actually played 4 years. He was a 4-year starter. Oh, okay. And he had played as a freshman and had a great arm. A great arm. So it was a game that, you know, kind of teetered a lot in that first half. It wasn't like we move the ball and then we have a mistake, and then we move the ball and we kick the ball, and it was back and forth. It wasn't a real. We didn't really get rolling until we got a one touchdown. Then I think that took the pressure off. I think it was a lot of pressure, even though not thinking at the time it was like that, but now looking back and looking at the game, we were kind of tentative. And didn't really relax until we got our feet underneath us. It was an interesting game. It was a fun game. You see at the end, we're all, you know, talking with each other and celebrating, and of course then that was a bad week for all of us.
Another piece to this educational experience has been talking with the players and with the alumni about, you know, what they experienced 5 or 6 days after this game was played.
Well, I had lunch, and I had heard at that time that there was a shooting in Dallas. There was something going on in Dallas over the radio, because some of the kids had gone out lunchtime and listened to the radios, which they shouldn't have been doing. So we knew there was something going on. And then I was in the cafeteria in study hall, and then word came through that Kennedy had died. That we had heard massive head wounds, and then later on that they had said that he had passed away. And I think we all remember where we were. And that was kind of a sad week when we had this great football game. I believe we played on a Monday. And we were all excited and had a great week. And basketball practice was supposed to start that Friday. And that time, Coach Farrick called us in the office, or actually in his office in a locker room, and told us that we were not going to have practice because of what happened. So it was really a sad day for everybody. There was a lot of kids crying. It was a really sad situation for all of us, because, you know, Kennedy was a Massachusetts resident, and everybody was proud of him. So it was really a sad, sad, sad day. And I think it's something that you look back on. You remember where you were and where you were when you heard this. I mean, I was sitting against the wall. I knew the table I was sitting at when I heard the news. It was a sad day, and we had such a great week, you know, where everybody's on a big high, and all of a sudden now this thing happens, and it kind of threw a monkey wrench into us. It was not a good thing, not a good thing. And looking back 50 years, it's hard to believe 50 years has passed. It's hard that 50 years had passed. And when I talked with Jerry Bell, we had talked about that was the week that Kennedy, and that was the week. And we brought back a lot of memories. And it was good talking with some of the older, you know, people. Some of them I haven't seen. I haven't seen Jerry Bell in years. I've seen Dennis some, because I had his boy in school when I was teaching up in Charlemont, so I had some contact with some of them. But it was a sad day.
Well, it means a lot, because I know what it represents and how many people it represents. My grandpa used to play for Deerfield High School, and he graduated in '48. So he would always come to my games, and he was a big motivation. So I know how many people, all my relatives, have all played this, and I know exactly how many people depend on us now to win it for them.
To have this game with a team that we feel is our own, it's it's hard to describe, really. So the things that we focused on was being together as a family, and maybe we show up against Mohawk and we're 22 kids are playing or whatever. But the biggest thing is next year when we come back, there's 22 strong kids that are coming back. We're not losing anyone, and we're focusing on getting the community excited again about Frontier football, and that maybe we are young and we made a few mistakes, but this is just the beginning of a really long tradition that's going to continue.
Brings back a lot of memories seeing the film. It was kind of fun to talk to some of the old players. I've had a chance to contact some of them, and they really appreciate the fact that this is being brought forward now, that they're acknowledging this game, which was, I guess, a big thing for us. And sometimes now sports don't always go the same way. It's a different rivalry, but at that time it was a huge one. It was a huge rivalry between Frontier and, at that time, Arms Academy, which later became Mohawk. This team that we see on the film was a really gifted team, and I look back now that the team was one of the most gifted teams that I think Frontier's had. We had a well-balanced, a lot of athletes, a lot of kids had a lot of experience. And I was thinking at the film because Mr. Swicker is the film man that would sit up on top of the old school, which is now the junior high school, and take the pictures. And it was amazing to go back and look and see those old pictures, the old film.
The community support has been unbelievable. We've got an incredibly supportive Frontier Football Parents Association, year in and year out. They're not only cheerleaders, fundraisers, but really help provide us with a community backbone for doing a project like this. This film has allowed us to really investigate and cherish the past players, but also our past history.
It was a piece of history. It's a piece of history in two ways. With the Kennedy assassination, it tied us up in our things that we did and ways that we worked. But to recognize that someone thinks that what we did was important, and I think kids need to understand that when they step on the field, that is important to them. It is, things that they work on, failures or successes, are important in their later life.
I feel like we've been really privileged that we get to interact with people like Bernie Sadowski and other people that have also played this game specifically against Mohawk. I feel like we do kind of get the sense of how important it is and how much it's going to mean to us later on in life and stuff, just because you just hear them go on and on about this game, and eventually you get to the point where you're like, this definitely means something. We got to start taking this more seriously, or thinking about it differently and stuff like that.
It's good memories, and I think kids need to remember that the game, no matter what happens next Wednesday, it's going to be a lot of good memories.
For my players and the coaches to be able to understand what some of the guys were like back in the early 60s, back when they were 16 and 17, and then to see Bernie Sadowski today in the weight room still kicking their butts, lifting weights, it brings history alive, the local history alive, and that's, as a teacher and as a coach, you can't ask for anything more. you.